Okay, so this is a video game review for Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun Firestorm for the PC. This expansion pack for Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun was released in 2000 and is a great example of an expansion pack bettering its original creation. Just before I get into the meat of the review, I will be showing the final mission and talking about the story quite a bit, so if you don't want to have that spoiled, then take this opportunity to stop the video. Now, what makes Firestorm quite a bit better than Tiberian Sun is simply its main story, which is far more exciting, and while the Joker McNeil isn't kicking around in this game, it's got an even better main character in the form of Cabal, the Nod mainframe computer, who goes a bit postal when both Nod and GDI try to activate him in order to decipher the Tacitus. After that, both Nod and GDI have to kind of put aside their differences for a while in order to destroy Cabal. There's only 9 missions for each campaign, but they're tougher and longer this time round, and the final mission is superb. And while 10 years later and the second time round it's not quite as epic, nothing can really take away from that first time you release the Cabal mech, who goes on a maniacal rampage. The first time this happens and you're not expecting it, and you don't have an army ready prepared, it's actually quite a terrifying thing. And for a computer game to bring up any emotion, it is a signal that it is doing its job well of creating a decent gaming experience. Other than the story, the gameplay is basically like Tiberian Sun, although without the presence of McNeil and a few Super Squad missions. The game still looks a bit dated, although the new vegetation and vicious Tiberian creatures who now inhabit Earth make the landscape look different enough from the first game. The missions aren't necessarily any better, indeed one Nod mission has you destroying every harvester refinery of Cabals, and it really drags on a bit because there's so many harvesters to kind of locate and they're all moving around a bit, but most of the missions feel a bit more streamlined at least. Unlike in Tiberian Sun where there are optional missions and they didn't really feel all that worthwhile, here you just get 9 missions from the beginning of the story to the end of the story and just less chaff basically. So it's more focused. Furthermore, the GDI and Nod campaigns feel more intertwined than even usual, as you will play through the GDI campaign than the Nod campaign and work out why certain things happened, because the other faction was up to something at the time, and it kind of explains itself more when you play it that way. There's a bit more electric, sort of electro-industrial rock music this time around, which is more in keeping with the Command & Conquer series, unlike the kind of ambient music they were going for the first time round. The sound effects are virtually identical as you'd expect from an expansion pack, although my favourite bit of sound was hearing Cabal's evil laughter intermittently in the final mission. They could have easily made Cabal a bit of a joke figure, but instead he sounds great, and really carries this expansion pack to make this chapter of the Command & Conquer series truly memorable. The new units included in this game don't make a huge difference, but do lessen the difference between Nod and GDI as factions, as GDI now have artillery in the form of the Juggernaut, which is great when you're playing as GDI, but not really if you're playing against them. It removes one of Nod's best advantages, and I do feel the balance on that issue has been ruined a little bit, or at least lessened. Both Nod and GDI have deployable sensor arrays, they both have mobile war factories, which is a nice inclusion. There's also a mobile stealth generator for Nod, which may be useful once or twice in missions, but I don't really feel they're actually that useful for skirmish, and the same is true of the limpet drones, who attach themselves to enemy units so that you can see inside enemy territories. I wouldn't really use these units all that much, but then again, you know, I'm not like some players, and therefore online or in skirmish modes, people may want to use different tactics, so I suppose a whole bunch of new units is only a good thing from a strategic point of view, although I do think giving the GDI a Juggernaut is a bit skews the balance way too much in their favour, and so that's a bit of a shame. In conclusion, therefore, the meat of the game hasn't changed all that much, and while the absence of General Solomon, the absence of Kane and of McNeil, Firestorm didn't do away with the Command & Conquer feeling like some games do. For instance, Prince of Persia Warrior Within is a game where they made it feel too different from the original. This isn't the case with Tiberian Sun Firestorm. It was in keeping with the universe, certainly. The return of Anton Slavik for Nod kept up the continuity, and as I've said already, but have to stress, Cabal really carries the story on his own. The new units, as I've already kind of briefly mentioned, don't really add all that much, and in the case of the Juggernaut, certainly make Nod feel weaker as a faction, and their missions, when you're playing them through, you wish they had more harder hitting units a lot of the time. Something resembling GDI's Titan would be nice. That said, the enhanced living world, the streamlined campaign, the decent main storyline, and the unforgettable finale, something that can really make a game feel so much better than it was leading up to that point. These factors really propel Firestorm over Tiberian Sun, and while I don't normally see the point in developers remaking games, it would be great to play Firestorm on a modern 3D engine, especially that epic final level against the Cabal mech. A thoroughly decent improvement is this expansion pack, and while I know I'm scoring this expansion as much on the enjoyable conclusion as I really should, this game gets a 7.8 out of 10. And that's me.